Today, we are going to take a look at the absolutely incredible 60-year journey of business aviation. It's a story that's packed with blistering speed and some truly revolutionary tech. We're talking about going from the daredevil pioneers who first thought, hey, let's strap a jet engine to a private plane, all the way to the visionaries of today who are trying to do one of two things: either shrink the entire planet with supersonic speed or totally transform how we get around our own cities. Okay, let's just jump right in. This slide, wow, it just captures the sheer scale of this evolution perfectly. Over on the left, you've got the iconic Learjet 23 from 1963. This is the plane that basically created the whole business jet category, and it topped out around 560 miles an hour. Now look to the right. That's the future, the boom overture, and it's aiming to more than double that speed by 2029. It's just an astonishing leap in what is really just over a single lifetime. But to really get where we're going, we first have to go back to that explosive beginning. The 1960s. It wasn't just about one plane, not at all. It was a super high-stakes race where a bunch of different companies all saw the same revolutionary idea at the same time: a personal jet for business. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide gets right to the heart of a debate that's been going on for decades: the question of who was truly first. Well, one source calls it a murky picture, and you can see why. Was it the first to fly, like the JetStar prototype way back in '57? Or was it the first to get certified by the FAA, which was the Sabreliner in April of '63? Or, and this is a good one, was it the first to actually be sold to a business customer? That was also the Sabreliner, just 1 week after the famous first flight of the Learjet 23. So yeah, it really depends on how you define first. And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the insane pressure of that era. For the engineers working on the Learjet, the competition wasn't just the other plane makers, it was the clock, and it was the checkbook. This just perfectly captures that raw entrepreneurial spirit, that mix of pure genius, incredible vision, and the very, very real risk of going completely broke that drove guys like Bill Lear. So after that initial kind of wild gold rush, the industry really needed to mature. Those high-risk pioneering days started to give way to refinement, to reliability. And if you want to see the perfect example of this shift, this move from a wild concept to a dependable platform, you have to look at the story of the Bombardier Challenger family. So what was the secret sauce here? Well, a huge piece of it was the technology. The Challenger was one of the very first business jets to use something called a supercritical wing. Now, this wasn't some minor tweak. It was a massive breakthrough in aerodynamics that let the jet fly faster, fly farther, and do it all while burning less fuel. It was an absolute game changer for efficiency. And what this slide shows is just how incredibly solid that initial design was. For over 40 years, the Challenger platform just kept evolving. It all started with a focus on passenger comfort. That wide cabin where you could actually walk around was a huge deal back then. Then came better engines, then more range and a digital glass cockpit, and finally, even more advanced systems and thrust. It's basically a masterclass in how you build an icon and keep it relevant for decades. Okay, so you've got all this innovation, all this refinement. What does it all add up to? Well, it created an industry that is so much more than just a convenient perk for executives. Today, business aviation is a massive, powerful engine for the entire economy. First, let's just talk about the people. This is not some niche little sector. It is a massive employer. We're talking about over 1.2 million jobs in the US alone that are supported by this industry. Everything from manufacturing and engineering to pilots and maintenance crews. And then, of course, there's the money. The financial contribution is just staggering. The business aviation industry adds more than $150 billion to the US economy every single year. But this right here, this might be its most important role, and the chart spells it out perfectly. You see, while the commercial airlines serve fewer than 500 airports in the US, business aviation connects to over 5,000. That's 10 times as many. It is a literal economic lifeline for thousands of smaller towns and communities, keeping them plugged into the national and even the global economy. Of course, when you have that kind of scale and that kind of impact, a huge responsibility comes along with it. And right now, the biggest challenge the industry is facing isn't about speed or comfort. It's about sustainability. The pressure is on to innovate all over again, but this time for the sake of the planet. And the industry has responded by setting some seriously ambitious goals. They have committed to carbon-neutral growth since 2020, and they're aiming for a complete net-zero carbon footprint by the middle of the century. Now, these are not small promises. These are going to require some fundamental, deep changes. So how are they going to get there? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is something called Sustainable Aviation Fuel, or SAF. And the real beauty of SAF is that it's what they call a drop-in solution. That means it works with the engines and the airport infrastructure we already have, which makes the whole transition way more feasible. But, and this is a really big but, here comes the reality check. While the ambition to use SAF is there, the supply just isn't. As this quote points out, the amount of SAF being produced right now is a tiny, tiny fraction of what's needed. The industry is facing this monumental challenge to scale up production to meet not only its current needs, but also the huge demands of future aircraft, especially fuel-hungry supersonic jets. So this tension, between the ambition and the reality, it's setting the stage for the future of flight. And it really seems to be splitting into two very different, almost competing ideas for what comes next. On one side, you have the pure, unadulterated pursuit of speed. You've got the boom overture, promising to cut a trip from New York to London down to just 3.5 hours. It's all about shrinking the globe. But on the other side, you've got the pursuit of clean, local access, with electric aircraft like the vertical aerospace Valo. It's designed for these short, totally zero-emission hops, like from an airport to a downtown heliport. And the scale of these two visions just could not be more different. Think about it. Boom is basically a small airliner, moving dozens of people across oceans at nearly 1,300 miles an hour. The Valo, which is an eVTOL, that's electric vertical takeoff and landing, it's essentially an air taxi. It's designed to move just a few people across a big city, quietly and with zero emissions. They're both revolutionary ideas, for sure, but they are solving completely different problems. And that brings us to our final question. As we look ahead to the next 60 years of aviation, what's going to be the real driving force of innovation? Is it going to be the raw thrill and the economic power of supersonic speed, connecting continents in record time? Or will it be the quiet, clean, and sustainable practicality of electric flight, completely transforming the cities where we live? The race for the sky, it seems, is on once again.